The aliens' arrival on Earth was swift and overwhelming. Their ships blotted out the sun, casting massive shadows over the planet's cities. The first few minutes were nothing more than chaos, as the citizens of Earth tried to make sense of what was happening. People screamed in fear, hiding in their homes, while others rushed to the streets in confusion. The sudden appearance of the alien armada was like a nightmare, one that no one had expected. The humans were not prepared for something of this scale. The invaders' technology was far beyond anything Earth had. They came with massive ships, weapons that could obliterate entire buildings with a single strike, and soldiers who could adapt to any environment. It was clear from the start that this would not be an easy fight. The invaders made no attempt at negotiation. They were here to conquer, and they wasted no time in launching their attack. Earth's military, though powerful in its own right, was caught off guard. The first battles were brutal. Fighter jets, tanks, and soldiers rushed to meet the alien forces head-on, but it was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The aliens' technology rendered human weapons nearly useless. One alien ship could easily take out dozens of Earth's fighters without breaking a sweat. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, humanity fought back. The alien generals had expected the humans to break easily. They had seen countless other species crumble under their might. But Earth's military was resilient. They adapted quickly, using guerrilla tactics to strike at the alien forces. Small teams of soldiers moved through cities, laying traps and launching surprise attacks. It wasn't much, but it was enough to slow down the invaders. The aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. The Earth forces did everything they could to mount a defense. They used every weapon they had, every tactic they knew. But even as the battles raged on, it became clear that humanity was outmatched. The alien ships moved with incredible precision, their weapons devastating the land below. Entire cities were reduced to rubble in the blink of an eye. Yet the humans refused to back down. There was something in their spirit, a fierce determination to protect their world, that kept them fighting. The more the aliens advanced, the more determined the humans became. They had something that the invaders had never encountered before, a reason to fight, not just for survival, but for their home. In the midst of the chaos, one thing became clear. Humanity was not going to surrender without a fight. The invaders might have superior technology, but the human spirit was something they had never faced. They underestimated Earth's ability to adapt and its people's will to survive. The humans were learning quickly, finding ways to fight back against the invaders. They realized that while they might not be able to match the alien strength directly, they could outthink them. Every battle became a learning experience, a chance to find a weakness in the alien forces. The humans may have been outgunned, but they had something far more powerful, their ability to fight smarter, not harder. The battle for Earth raged on, but the tide was slowly starting to turn. The aliens, confident in their victory, began to underestimate their opponents. They believed that the humans would eventually break under the pressure. But every time they thought they had won, the humans surprised them with new tactics and new strategies. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep the invaders off balance. As the days turned into weeks, the fight for Earth continued. The alien ships continued to rain destruction down on the planet, but the humans refused to back down. Every soldier, every civilian, fought with everything they had. They knew that the future of their world was at stake. The invaders might have superior technology, but the humans had something they couldn't understand: the will to survive and the desire to protect their home. The aliens might have come thinking they would easily crush this world, but they quickly realized that Earth was not like the other planets they had conquered. The humans were not going to give up without a fight. In the end, the invaders realized they had made a mistake. They had underestimated the humans, and that mistake was going to cost them. The battle for Earth was far from over, but the first clash had shown them that this planet was not going to be an easy conquest. Humanity's spirit and determination had already begun to turn the tide. And the invaders knew that the fight was only going to get harder from here. The Earth may have seemed like an easy target, but now it was the invaders who were on the back foot, unsure of what was to come next. As the alien generals regrouped and strategized for the next phase of their attack, they couldn't ignore one undeniable truth. Humanity had earned their respect. They may have thought this would be a quick conquest, but the first clash had shown them that Earth was not a world to be easily taken. And as the battle continued, the invaders would soon learn just how costly their mistake had been. Humanity was not done fighting. In fact, the fight had only just begun. The alien generals stood in their command center, analyzing the data from the initial clashes. Despite their overwhelming technological advantage, something unexpected had happened. The humans, whom they had written off as primitive and weak, had not only put up a fight but had made their presence felt. The attack on Earth had been far from the easy victory they anticipated. The invaders had assumed that Earth would be like every other planet they had conquered, defenseless and incapable of putting up much resistance. But as they reviewed the reports, they saw something that made them pause. The human forces, although outclassed in technology, had fought with an intensity that was foreign to the aliens. They were not like the other species the aliens had encountered. They fought not for survival alone, but for something much deeper, something that made them more dangerous than the aliens had ever imagined. The invaders had thought their superior firepower would break the humans within days. But the humans were adapting. They were learning. Small units of Earth's forces had been striking back, using hit-and-run tactics and targeting weak points in the alien armor. Every time the invaders thought they had eradicated a human stronghold, a new one would appear, seemingly from nowhere, as if the humans could not be fully defeated. The aliens had underestimated the human mind. They had counted on brute force to win, but the humans were outwitting them at every turn. The alien commanders quickly realized that the humans were not afraid to take risks, and their unpredictability was their greatest weapon. While the aliens relied on precision and calculation, the humans fought with sheer determination and resourcefulness. On the ground, Earth's military forces were beginning to regroup. Soldiers who had once been disorganized in the face of the alien onslaught were now banding together, forming alliances that stretched across nations. The initial fear that had gripped the population was starting to transform into something else: resolve. Civilians who had never touched a weapon before were now being trained to fight. People who had spent their entire lives living in peace were now learning the art of war. In cities across the world, the human resistance was gaining strength. The aliens had underestimated Earth's people, thinking they could break them with a few well-placed strikes. But they had failed to account for the resilience that flowed through the human race. The more the aliens destroyed, the more the humans found ways to rebuild, to adapt, and to push back. It was as though every loss made the humans fight harder. In space, the alien fleet began to move in closer. Their massive ships hovered over Earth's major cities, raining down fire on anything that moved. The sound of explosions became constant, and the sky was filled with the smoke of destruction. But despite the devastation, the human forces refused to give up. They fought on, not because they were winning, but because they knew that if they didn't, everything they held dear would be lost. One of the most surprising developments was the way humans communicated. Where the aliens used cold, calculated tactics, the humans used their ability to inspire and rally one another. Radio broadcasts, once used for entertainment, were now filled with messages of hope. Leaders emerged from all corners of the Earth, uniting people in a common cause. The human resolve was becoming a force to be reckoned with. As the days turned into weeks, the alien commanders found themselves facing more than just an enemy. They were facing an entire species that refused to back down. The humans had learned from their mistakes. They had studied the alien tactics, analyzed their weaknesses, and begun to strike at the invaders where it hurt the most. They targeted supply lines, weapons caches, and vulnerable spots in the alien ships. The humans had found their rhythm, and the aliens were beginning to take notice. The alien generals were now in a state of constant tension. They had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, But now they were dealing with a human force that was both unpredictable and relentless. The war was no longer just about superior technology. It was about willpower. The humans had something the aliens did not: a refusal to be crushed, no matter the cost. The invaders had underestimated humanity's capacity for perseverance. They thought they could break Earth's will, but what they had not accounted for was the human spirit. Each alien victory was met with a growing fury on the human side. Every city they destroyed only fueled the flames of resistance. The more they attacked, the more determined the humans became. The aliens, once confident of their victory, were now realizing that this battle would not be won easily. Back on Earth, the human forces were finally starting to make their presence known in ways that the aliens hadn't anticipated. The first few successful strikes against the alien fleet had been small, but they were victories nonetheless. Earth's military forces were slowly but surely finding ways to exploit the weaknesses in the alien ships. The humans were learning quickly, and the invaders had no idea how to stop them. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the invaders had underestimated the power of the human will. They had believed that their superior technology would be enough to crush Earth's defenses, but they were discovering that the human spirit was not so easily broken. Every loss, every attack, only made the humans more determined to fight. And as the humans continued to adapt, the aliens were starting to realize they had made a terrible mistake. The war was far from over, but the first signs were clear. The tide was beginning to turn, and the alien generals knew that they were facing a fight that would be far harder than they had ever imagined. Earth, once thought to be an easy target, had become a planet that no alien force would ever forget. The humans had shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would never surrender, and that the aliens would soon learn would be their downfall. The alien generals stood in their command center, staring at the chaotic reports flooding in from their fleets. The situation had taken an unexpected turn. Despite their overwhelming technological advantage, humanity was proving far more resilient than they could have imagined. What had started as a swift invasion was now turning into a prolonged, unpredictable war. The humans, who had seemed weak and defenseless, were slowly turning the tide of battle. At first, the alien commanders had underestimated Earth's defenses. They had assumed the humans would fall quickly, crushed by the superior firepower of the alien fleets. But as days passed, the aliens realized they were wrong. The humans didn't fight like the other species the invaders had conquered. The humans fought with a fierce determination that was unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. The battle wasn't just about technology or strategy. It was about something deeper, something the aliens couldn't comprehend: survival and hope. The humans' ability to adapt was proving to be their greatest strength. They learned from their losses, making quick adjustments to their tactics and strategies. The invaders, accustomed to a straightforward tactical approach, found themselves baffled by the humans' unpredictable maneuvers. Every time the aliens thought they had cornered the human forces, the humans seemed to slip away and strike back from an entirely different direction. The humans had started using guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run operations that disrupted the alien supply lines and sabotaged their most important systems. The alien forces, while technologically advanced, struggled to respond to this new form of warfare. The more they tried to crush the resistance, the more it seemed to grow. The humans had something the aliens didn't: resilience. Where the invaders were cold and calculating, the humans fought with heart and a burning desire to protect their world. In the cities of Earth, the human resistance was beginning to form. The civilians, once afraid and scattered, were now uniting. Men and women who had never held a weapon before were being trained in basic combat and strategy. The sense of fear that had once paralyzed them was now being replaced by courage. People were standing together, not only for their survival, but for the survival of their families, their culture, and their planet. The aliens' initial confidence was slowly starting to fade. Meanwhile, in space, the alien ships continued to bombard Earth from orbit, but with each passing day, the attacks became less effective. The humans were learning how to fight back. They had begun launching their own counterattacks, using every scrap of military technology they could muster. Earth's forces, though still outnumbered, were growing more organized, and the humans' ingenuity was slowly chipping away at the alien fleet. The aliens had believed that their weapons were unbeatable, that their advanced technology would make them invincible. But they had failed to consider the power of human creativity. Humans didn't need superior firepower to fight. They used their brains, their resourcefulness, and their will to turn the tide. The aliens had relied on overwhelming force to break Earth's resistance, but they were learning the hard way that the human spirit was not so easily crushed. One of the most surprising elements of the conflict was the way humanity communicated. Where the aliens used cold, clinical methods to relay orders, the humans were sharing messages of hope and unity. Radio broadcasts and social media were used to rally people, to inspire them to keep fighting. The humans had quickly realized that in a war of this magnitude, morale was just as important as military power. The more the humans saw that they weren't alone, the stronger they became. The alien generals could see the power of this communication, but they couldn't quite understand it. For the first time, the alien commanders were faced with a force that was not just fighting to survive, but fighting for something greater. As the war raged on, the alien fleet began to feel the effects of human ingenuity. Attacks against their ships were becoming more effective, and the once overwhelming superiority of the alien forces was starting to fade. The human forces were not yet winning, but they were pushing back harder than the aliens had ever anticipated. The generals were no longer certain of victory. The longer the war dragged on, the more they began to question whether they had made a mistake in underestimating humanity. On Earth, people were not just defending their cities, they were fighting back with everything they had. Soldiers and civilians alike were pulling together in ways that the aliens had never seen before. The humans fought with a unity that came from desperation, but also from something deeper, a love for their planet, their home, and their people. The more the aliens destroyed, the more the humans seemed to come together and rebuild. In space, the battle was far from over, but Earth's resistance was no longer something the aliens could ignore. The humans had made it clear that they were not going to go down quietly. Their resolve was growing stronger, and with each victory, no matter how small, they were showing the invaders that they had underestimated them. The alien generals were now faced with the reality that this would not be a quick victory. The war had only just begun, and the humans were determined to make it as difficult as possible. The human resistance was proving to be a force the aliens hadn't counted on. The generals were beginning to realize that this war was not going to be won with brute force alone. It would take more than just advanced weaponry to defeat humanity. It would take something they didn't have, an understanding of what it meant to fight for survival, for family, and for the future. The humans were no longer just defending their planet. They were fighting for their very existence. As the battle continued, the alien generals began to fear that they had made a grave mistake. The humans had already shown that they would not be defeated easily, and the longer the war went on, the more it seemed like they might be able to turn the tide. The invaders, once so sure of their victory, were now beginning to question whether they had miscalculated. They had underestimated the power of humanity, and now they were learning the hard way that this war would not be as easy as they had thought. With every passing day, Earth's resistance was growing stronger. The invaders had awakened a force they never expected, one that would stop at nothing to defend the home they loved. The alien generals were now facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered, and for the first time, they were beginning to realize that they may have underestimated the humans' will to survive. The war was far from over, but the first signs were clear. Earth was not going down without a fight, and the aliens were starting to fear that they might have made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity. The alien fleet had never lost a war. For hundreds of years, they moved from star system to star system, crushing resistance with ease. No species had been strong enough, smart enough, or brave enough to stand against them. But Earth was different. Earth was not just another planet to conquer. It had become a problem, one they couldn't solve. The invaders, once confident and cold, now found themselves struggling to understand what had gone wrong. Their weapons still worked. Their ships still filled the sky. But somehow, they were losing. Every day brought more surprises. Every battle felt harder. Every plan they made was broken by something they didn't expect. The humans were changing the rules of war. They were fighting in ways the aliens had never seen before. In one region, deep in the forests of what used to be a quiet human country, a large alien base had been set up to control the surrounding land. It was filled with high-tech machines, scanners, force fields, and armed guards. No human had ever come close to entering it. But on one dark night, something happened that changed everything. A loud explosion rocked the alien base. Fire lit up the sky. Alarms screamed. The guards rushed to the defense walls, expecting a full human army. But there was no army, only shadows. Fast, silent, and clever. Human fighters had crept in under the cover of night using makeshift camouflage. They attacked weak points, overloaded power cores, and vanished before the aliens could fire back. It wasn't about strength. It was about understanding. The humans had learned how the alien tech worked. They had studied it, broken it down, and found its weaknesses. They used wires, magnets, and even kitchen tools to jam sensors and confuse scanners. They fought with whatever they had, and it worked. Back at the Alien War Council, the generals shouted at each other. This was not how things were supposed to go. They blamed each other. Some said they needed more ships. Some said they needed to destroy Earth completely from orbit. But others, the wiser ones, were starting to worry. The problem wasn't Earth's weapons. The problem was Earth's people. The humans didn't give up. No matter how bad it got, they kept fighting. Even when a city was lost, the people of that city would reappear somewhere else, rebuilding, organizing, resisting. When one leader fell, 3 more rose, and they didn't fight alone. Civilians became soldiers, scientists became tacticians, farmers became spies. It wasn't just a military defense anymore. It was a full uprising. One of the alien commanders, General Frexel, who once believed Earth would fall in less than a week, now sat quietly in his dark quarters, reading battle logs filled with failure after failure. He watched video clips of human ambushes, human sabotage missions, human trickery. He didn't understand how a species so primitive could be this dangerous. He remembered the first time he saw Earth. It looked small and soft, its people weak, its cities thinly protected. But now it looked like something else. Like a trap. Like a world that waited for them to come too close, and then bite back hard. In space, human forces had grown bold. With help from captured alien tech, Earth had managed to repair old warships, power them with hybrid engines, and launch a surprise attack on a supply station in orbit. It was a success. The aliens didn't even see it coming. And that was only the beginning. Earth's skies were no longer fully controlled by the invaders. Human pilots flew with crazy, unpredictable maneuvers. Some even flew straight into the enemy, crashing themselves just to take down larger ships. It wasn't because they wanted to die. It was because they wanted their children to live. That was the part the aliens didn't understand. Humans weren't fighting for power. They weren't fighting to expand. They were fighting because this was their only home. Their families were here. Their history was here. And they were ready to do whatever it took to protect it. Back on the ground, in a secret mountain base, Earth's leaders met around a rough wooden table. No suits, no big speeches. Just people who had seen too much, lost too much, and still had more to do. Their eyes were tired, but their voices were strong. "We've turned the tide," said Commander Reyes, looking at the old map filled with pins and scribbles. "They're scared. They won't say it, but they are. They thought we'd break. Instead, we adapted. They hit us with fire, and we came back with thunder." The others nodded. One scientist, A young woman named Lion stood up with a small device in her hand. "We cracked their shield code," she said. "It's not perfect, but we can break their defenses now. We can hit their command ships directly." That changed everything. The aliens, now losing control of key areas, decided to regroup. But it was too late. Human forces had already spread through the cracks. Like water through a damaged wall, they flowed into every weak point. And they didn't stop. A large alien mothership in Earth's orbit, once the pride of their fleet, was surrounded by hundreds of small, fast human vessels. The battle was intense. Explosions flashed across space like fireworks, and in the end, the humans did what no other species had done. They destroyed it. The giant alien ship, once thought to be unstoppable, fell burning through Earth's atmosphere and crashed into the sea. That moment was broadcast across the world. People in bunkers, in shelters, in ruined cities watched the screen with wide eyes. Cheers, tears, screams of hope spread everywhere. The aliens could be hurt. They could be beaten. General Threxel saw the crash from his ship's window. He turned away, jaw tight. "This world," he muttered, "this world fights back harder than anything we've known." His second-in-command stepped forward. "Should we retreat, General?" Threxel didn't answer right away. He looked again at Earth, bruised, burning, but still standing. The war wasn't over, but it had changed. They were no longer the hunters. Earth had shown its teeth. And now, the galaxy would watch what happened next. The day Earth roared was the day the galaxy went silent. No one had expected this little blue planet to stand. No one had imagined the humans would push back this hard. But now, everything had changed. The skies were no longer owned by the invaders. The cities they once marched through were now battle zones they avoided. And the humans, they were no longer hiding. It started with a signal, a short message sent from Earth's high mountains, bouncing across satellites, broken space relays, and even captured alien tech. The message was simple, just 2 words: "We're ready." In deep space, alien reinforcements had been waiting. Giant ships, bigger than anything Earth had seen so far. They were built to crush, burn, and erase. But when the message arrived, they hesitated. For the first time in this long invasion, they didn't rush forward. They waited. Because something had changed. From the moon, hidden in the shadows, a human command center lit up. Earth had quietly been turning its natural satellite into a base, not just for defense, but for launch. Giant cannons powered by hybrid human-alien tech rose from the surface. Missiles loaded, shields activated. Human commanders looked at each other. They knew this was the moment. "All forces," Commander Rice said, his voice calm but hard, "advance." And they did. From underground bunkers, from mountain hideouts, from the remains of cities, the human army rose like a wave. They didn't come with just weapons. They came with knowledge. Every piece of alien tech they had studied was now being used against its creators. Pulse rifles made from scrap. Gravity mines built in old car factories. Armor pieced together with human steel and alien shields. They didn't have numbers, but they had something better: rage, hope, and unity. Above the planet, the final battle began. Alien ships fired their massive beams, burning through clouds and shaking the sky. But Earth was ready. Fighter jets danced through enemy formations, dropping charges that stuck to ships like glue and exploded from inside. The moon's cannons fired one after another, shaking space itself. Alien ships shattered like glass. One of the biggest alien dreadnoughts, the same type that had destroyed 10 planets before, was locked in a duel with a much smaller human cruiser. It seemed like no contest, but then the human ship did something unexpected. It flew straight at the enemy, its engines screaming. The alien commander laughed at the madness, until the human ship fired its last payload, turned sideways, and split the dreadnought in half. The explosion lit up space. On the ground, General Threxel watched from a command post they had once taken from humans. The screens around him showed disaster. Ships falling, troops retreating. His jaw tightened. This wasn't supposed to happen. Earth was supposed to be easy. But Earth wasn't easy. It was alive. It was angry. A young alien officer ran to him. "General, we must retreat. They're coming." Frexel stared at the sky. "We've never retreated," he said quietly. "But this is Earth," the officer whispered. And in that moment, Frexel understood. Earth was not like the others. Earth wasn't just a battlefield. It was a home. And humans fought for their home like nothing he had ever seen. As the final human wave moved in, Frexel gave the order. "Begin retreat. Save what you can." It was the first time in the history of their species that such an order had been given. Back in the human command center, cheers echoed through the halls. People hugged, cried, laughed. The screens showed alien ships turning away, breaking off, jumping into warp space one by one. Earth was free. But the war had changed the people. Commander Reyes stood on a balcony, looking over a ruined but surviving city. The sky was filled with streaks of smoke, but also with lights, signals of victory. "They'll be back," someone said beside him. Reyes nodded. "Let them come. We're not the same anymore. We're stronger." And it was true. The war had united Earth in a way peace never had. Borders no longer mattered. Governments had fallen and risen together. People had worked side by side, forgetting their old hate, remembering only that they were human. Word spread across the stars. Alien worlds that had once feared the invaders now looked to Earth for hope. Rebellions began. Whispers of human tactics, human bravery, human fire, spread fast. Earth had become more than a planet. It had become a symbol. In deep space, where no sunlight reached, a council of alien leaders gathered. These were species untouched by the war, silent observers of the galaxy's chaos. They watched the fall of Earth's invaders with cold eyes. They saw the strength of humanity and whispered to each other. "Perhaps it is time we talk to them," one said. "Or stop them," said another. But none dared make a move yet, because now everyone knew the truth. No planet could stop the invaders until Earth did, and the galaxy would never forget it.